Racial bias can have so many devastating effects, especially when it comes to medical intervention and medical care, where lives are at risk. Black lives are at risk. I'm Rosemarie Havsom, and I'm here to tell you that you can take back full control of your life by what you choose to put at the end of your fork. So let's get into it.
What does racial bias in medicine look like? My name's Joel, the medical mythbuster, and that's a question I asked myself nearly 4 years ago at the height of the COVID pandemic. It led me to start posting videos online about racism in medicine. I've discussed how devices called pulse oximeters that measure oxygen in our blood don't read well on darker skin tones. How a racist medical equation assumed that all black people had better kidney functioning than any other race. How lung function tests assume that if you're black or Asian, you automatically start with a lower lung functioning than any other race. And so much more. Well, I'm bringing that series back with updates about things that have and haven't happened with each of these different disparities.
There's something to be said about being considered subhuman. We have an entire race of people of African descent who are considered to be subhuman since the days of slavery in the United States and elsewhere around the world. The thing that is very important to note is that these ideas, these racist ideas, are not going to just dissipate as the centuries go on. We're now in the 21st century, and we're still having to be faced with the prospect of racial bias. And when it comes to healthcare and medical intervention, we have a problem with that. In a little known, there are so many tests and assessments that happen, especially when people are dealing with chronic illnesses. And if you know anything about chronic illnesses, then you know that they are preventable. But there are extenuating circumstances as to why these preventable chronic illnesses are so rampant, especially within the Black communities across America. Now, one of the things that we need to keep in mind is that even though we are aware that preventable chronic illnesses can be controlled or avoided through lifestyle choices, however, there's something to be said about why Black people in America are suffering from chronic illnesses more than any other group. And that is something that has to be examined. Unfortunately, for Black Americans, we have to deal with the issue of being considered a subhuman. And being considered a subhuman is easy to just say that that's a racist thing to consider an entire group of people being less than human. There's a deeper level to this, and that is that throughout the years, our medical professions and our medical systems and our healthcare systems have taken on this idea that Black people are subhuman and therefore they have different reactions to medications, to pain, to diseases than their white counterparts. And this leads to absolutely devastating results where the outcomes are usually very, very negative for Black Americans. So, what is happening? Well, it was recently revealed that there's yet another medical assessment that is not based on facts, it's based on biased ideas about what Black people feel or experience. This one was specifically around kidney function. There is an assessment that's called the GFR, and that's called glomerular filtration rate. What that's checking for is how efficiently your kidneys can filter creatine. Now, we've all heard about creatine supplements, but something that has to be said about creatine is that, yes, it is very beneficial for growing muscle. However, there is a caution that not enough people are talking about, which is where it can negatively affect your kidney function. And if you are at risk for poor kidney function, taking a creatine supplement can make things a lot worse. It can actually shut down your kidneys if you are sensitive enough to that issue. With this GFR measurement for kidney function. Because of these racial biases, doctors in the United States would then round up the numbers for their Black patients, meaning that Black patients would no longer be hitting the requirements where a kidney transplant would be needed, for example, because doctors scored them higher, which meant that they had to wait longer to have any sort of intervention, either through a kidney specialist referral or a nephrologist or for kidney dialysis. And these key markers are not being met because people with poor kidney function are then suffering end-stage kidney disease, which then will lead to a complete shutdown of their kidneys and requiring dialysis. This is a very serious, serious issue that still needs to be addressed in almost all levels of healthcare within the medical system. One of the things to keep in mind is that if this particular measurement is going against Black Americans' health, and it only has been mentioned within the last few years, what is that to say about other areas of medical bias? So, for this particular kidney function measurement, it wasn't until 2021 where the racial aspect of it, where the numbers were rounded up to make it look like Black patients with kidney issues didn't really have a serious enough problem to warrant them being on a transplant list. Now we have an opportunity to look at ourselves and take responsibility for our kidney health while we can. And it's simple things. Did you know that something as simple as drinking water each day and making sure that you're hydrated instead of dehydrating yourself with coffee and other caffeinated beverages, with sparkling water, soda, juice, drinks, all of these things are dehydrating to the body and they wreak havoc on our kidneys. So we need to take responsibility for what we're doing to our bodies. And if you don't know, then find a good nutritionist who can set you straight. And yes, I said nutritionist and not dietitian, because we need to get back to healthy eating. And let's face it, dietitians are not always focused on the natural remedies when it comes to food and having healthy outcomes from eating healthy food. What do you think about racial bias when it comes to medical procedures and medical testing for Black patients versus their white counterparts? Comment it down below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. And do remember that I also have a YouTube channel, which is Havsom, spelled H-A-V for Victor, S-O-M for Mother, where we'll continue the conversation there.